Hi everybody, it's Thursday, it's Lit Soc. We're back after the half term. Year 8 scholars, some of us have been up at the British Library today, which has been a fabulous day, hasn't it?
Yes.
They're really enthusiastic, but they're very tired. We looked at the treasures, didn't we? What did you two find in the treasures you want to talk about?
Lots of prosthetic limbs.
Oh yeah, we found a log
did
in
you?
the wall, and it was like the medical things that hospitals
was
had for like
in India,
prosthetic
in
limbs and stuff
Prosthetic,
that they'd have, and like limbs being flown off in bombs. And
I mean, it
be
wasn't
sewn back
like
on.
that. It was just a log of
And
like
then there was
what
also-
like limbs
yeah.
were being ordered. It was cool. It was cool.
And then there was
And
like
stamps,
King
lots of
Henry
stamps.
VIII's prescription diary, because he had like
Ooh.
load of health issues because
He did,
ate
especially
a
towards
load
the
of
end.
food.
Yeah.
And then he weighed a quarter of a ton, and then he got a load of health issues, and then his prescription list was like that long.
Wow.
I'm not surprised, to
interesting.
be honest. He really
Okay, well,
let himself go towards the
The
end.
most I saw were the first folio of Shakespeare,
Lovely.
second folio of Shakespeare,
Wonderful.
third folio of Shakespeare,
Fantastic.
fourth folio of Shakespeare,
I'm
which
jealous.
apparently was 1685 and was the last one using the original engraving of his face. Lots of lovely information and some wonderful sacred texts as well, didn't we? Look at all sorts of different religions, and we did a creative writing workshop where we wrote about characters and mystery in the library. Did you do that, or did you not do that?
I wrote 2 poems.
You wrote 2 poems, Annabelle.
We did it based off of like it was just like we did a poem or prose about the library.
Oh,
or
right.
A library,
Yeah.
Okay.
and it was inspired off of like an object we saw.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Creative
If you like
response.
a poem, we could do literally anything.
Yeah. We wrote the beginning of stories in my group, and very good they were too. Yeah. Using
Outstanding.
the libraries.
Sounds great. Sounds
Yeah,
like a great
so
day
it was
out.
really
I'm
good.
very jealous.
Really good. Okay, so we are today looking at guilty pleasures, which might be the things that we perhaps read under the covers when we were very small. I remember reading Wind in the Willows under the covers when I was very small with my sister, with our torches. Now my guilty pleasure is detective novels, so I'll come back to that later. Mr. Humphreys has a variety of things. There'll be familiar things from previous Lit Socs.
Of course they will.
Of course. But who would like to kick us off this afternoon? Annabelle, let's get
Yes,
the
come on.
dreaded out of the way.
Let's get
Very
some
quickly,
high
shall we?
energy,
Okay then.
Here we go.
passionate advocacy.
So, here we go.
Okay, let her talk, please. I know it's tempting
Okay.
to heckle,
Okay,
but let her talk.
so I'm going to do Twilight. Okay, I have 3 copies in my bedroom. Some of them are battered because I've read them too much. And I swear I can quote word for word the scene where she is in Seattle.
Let's not.
And so I quite like this book because, well, I had an obsession with it last year and it was quite bad. But anyways,
now it really is.
That was my fault, and it's really sad for him now paying the price.
it was your fault. Anyways, so I think it's like really a good guilty pleasure because it's just like so cheesy. You can just read it and then cringe at yourself, but also be like sucked into the cheese.
When you say cheese, do you mean the sentimental romance?
No.
They're all wandering
Yeah,
around doing
I mean,
nothing
it's
for
like,
thousands of years.
yeah, it's like
Gloves are off already, I think.
it's like fridge full of cheese kind of vibe, but
Are we talking about Wallace and Gromit now? Yeah, explain, please.
like it's really like cringy, but it's also really like cool because it's kind of like it gets kind of tense at moments. Like, can I spoil it?
Yes,
didn't think-
yes,
okay.
we're not going to read it.
Like an eclipse when Jacob kisses Bella and then she punches him, but then her hand breaks. That's quite funny. That was really. Her hand breaks because he's a werewolf. And he's like really hard. So
Which
she
is reinforcing a
punches him and then
stereotype,
his hand-
obviously, which is a bad thing. Yeah.
So she's like really
Reinforcing
angry,
stereotype.
and then her whole hand breaks trying to punch him.
Okay, so could you tell us What turned you on to this in the first place?
Alyssa. It was you. It was your fault.
Right, okay.
Alice looks like she wants to disappear into the chair.
How did you get it to her?
I don't even know. I think she just got bored because I was reading the series, and then she saw me reading them, and I think she bought. I think
The
she
power of friendship.
It always ruins everything.
Yeah. So you were like, you were reading Twilight and you were blabbing on about it. You were having a proper conflab, and then
It's.
you don't know this one.
Annabelle, could you explain the title? We talk about it a lot, but we've really
Yeah.
never ever sort of thought about why is the title the title?
Well, I think it's the title because, for one, it's got a lot of like magical creatures, and they often appear at Twilight.
Okay.
And also, like, with Jacob and stuff, like, also with vampires, like, because it's so bright at Twilight, it goes down,
Brightness falls from the air.
yeah.
It's also the sequence, isn't it? Think of the
Yeah.
sequence: Twilight, followed by
New moon, and then eclipse. So it's like,
And then it's Breaking Dawn, isn't it?
and then it's breaking dawn. So it's like
Ah,
going in a circle, like, kind of,
with the moon
yeah.
and the dark. Okay.
Uh-huh. And I feel like Twilight's it is because, like, that's when the vampires can actually, like, come out because, like, they can't go in the sun.
That's really interesting because it's what we call a liminal state, a between state. Next year in Year 9 we look at Gothic. Do you remember doing the Gothic?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they do.
But
Gerald is
it's
a
like
liminal character in
and it's. I think it really appeals to your age group because you're betwixt and between. You're not children anymore, but you're not yet fully adult. Although
Yeah.
you've got a lot of concepts that are coming. So Twilight, you're this betwixt and between. So
Yeah.
like that's who she was writing.
And also, like, because there's a whole Edward Jacob scenario. She's, like, in between the middle of them.
Yeah, good.
And she's like, should I go for Jacob or should I go for Edward?
Team Jacob.
What?
Let's talk.
No. Guys, that's because she was Team Edward. I'm not Team anyone. I'm just.
Oh my god, my friend's Team Jacob, and she thinks
Should I
you
get
that him and Renesmee is cute. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? Right.
About Sophie?
Yes, I am.
What's the difference between them?
I think Jacob and Renesmee is the OTP.
Jacob and Renesmee. Isn't that the child?
Yeah,
the
it is.
literal
No, they start
baby.
dating, and then he's like,
That is wrong.
Right.
so Jacob is a werewolf,
Jacob's a werewolf, and what is Edward?
and he's so needy, and then Edward is a vampire.
Right, okay.
And
so we've got
he's
that
like-
sorted. For viewers at
Yeah.
home, for viewers at home who might be getting a bit confused, okay.
I think everyone's read Twilight.
and
to be
Bella
honest.
is not
No.
either of those things, is she? She's
She's
No,
just
she's
immortal.
normal.
She's human.
Yeah.
What is she?
She's boring.
And she's supposed to be the protagonist, so.
I mean, to be honest, the start of the movie's a bit weird. She's just wandering around the desert going, holding a cactus going, I wonder what it will be like when I die. But, you know.
All of the movies are weird.
The movies are worse than the book.
I know, no. I quite like the movies. But I like the books more. Wait, where's my book go? Oh, it's there.
Right, Annabelle, your time is up. Thank you very much.
Aww.
Well done, Annabelle. You were. I just wanted to read a little bit of it.
See,
to
I made
that's how bad it
Twilight
was.
amusing. I made it funny for you.
Very good. Good
Do
job.
you want to go next? Yeah. Was there any more tea in the pot? Anybody?
No, there wasn't.
There wasn't. Oh right, we used it all today.
Well, that's first.
Well.
Okay, Carry On is a guilty pleasure for me.
Yes.
I end up somehow rereading bits of it every exam season when I'm stressed, because it's
Also, we're in Pride Month.
yeah. It's I think it's very easy to reread bits of it because there is a plot, but somehow I can start anywhere in the book, and I don't need to know what's going on.
That's a sign of something that you've really enjoyed, isn't it?
So I think I just don't need to be. It's good escapism because it's easy to read. There's very little description in it, so.
And does it make you happy, or is it a comfort read?
I think it's a comfort read.
Right, okay.
I think I end up laughing at like how invested I can be in something so ridiculous.
This one's a comfort read. The next two are not comfort reads.
I don't like the other two, and in my mind they don't exist.
Yeah.
They may live on my bookshelf, but they don't exist. So,
Okay. Reminds me of when you were saying that. Reminds me when I was about 12. I'd had Chalet school books for a long time, and for some reason, I think they were only available the very early ones, and I got those out of the library. And then there was a great big skip to something like number 11 or 12, and I remember crying and my mother saying, "What's the matter?" I said, "Oh, everybody's changed. Mamselle is dead." And I was completely traumatised because big things had happened to the school, and I'd sort of skipped the time in between. So it was really
Traumatic.
It was traumatic. So like you, I didn't want to remember that at all. So
yeah, so
yes.
I remember I read a book and it was really good. I didn't like the ending, so I made up another ending.
I know, that's a really good thing.
And then what I
Alternative
did was
ending.
I literally got a piece of paper and I scribbled out on the book
Yeah.
and I glued it into
a different ending.
Okay, what's the name of this book?
I can't even remember at
remember.
this point. But I
You were
wrote a
doing
different
Litsoc on books you
ending.
blanked out.
And the literary
Well,
style's
yeah.
quite different, but it was okay.
How old were you when you did this?
Oh, 8.
Mm.
You see, I've got a good mind. I was smart when I was
Please
young.
don't tell me you do that now, though.
No.
Not
Okay,
the library
good.
books.
Yeah, certainly not to my library books,
No.
please.
Your library books.
Yeah, my library books. I can
So
find,
Josie,
yes.
this author, have they written anything else that you liked apart from the other two?
I haven't read any of the other
Oh,
books.
okay.
I got given the book by a friend from outside of school as a birthday present originally. So, yeah.
She has started another series recently,
Yeah.
but I can't remember what it's called.
Fangirl's quite good by her.
Yeah.
I remember liking it. I can't remember if I would like it now, but I remember liking it when I was younger.
Yeah, of course, there are some books that you read a lot when you were much younger. I mean, I know that I really enjoyed, for example, John Fowlsome Ages, but I can't read it now. It's a book for very much younger people. I just can't even get beyond the first page. It's peculiar.
We all change.
Yeah, we do. Okay, anything else you want to... And are they English or American or...
English.
The characters are English. They go to America in the second book
Okay.
and complain about the American states a lot. But because
Typical British people.
yeah, basically we complain that it always rains here, but as soon as we go anywhere else and it's too sunny, we just complain about the weather there as well.
Yeah, I think
Our
we do.
favourite thing is to complain
About the weather, especially. I think
They also complain about sandwiches in the second book. The two things,
Wow.
weather and sandwiches.
Wow.
Is he also like really depressed and struggling to find his sense of purpose in life?
No, but it's Baz who's complaining about the sun and sandwiches.
But the sun and the sandwiches
It's a
is
first
what we're
world
taking away from
problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Selling sandwiches, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Josie.
Thank you, Josie.
Okay, any volunteers next?
Okay. This book series has been mentioned a lot before,
That's right.
but I'm talking about a specific book in the book series, and this actually isn't the book that I want to talk about because it wasn't on the shelf. I want to talk about The Titan's Curse in the Percy Jackson series because it is my favourite out of the 5 books. They're obviously children's books, and I've read them loads, and I probably should be moving on, but they're really well written, and the characters are really developed. For a children's book, is really good literature, and also The Titan's Curse is so sad, but it's just really good, and yeah.
Is it about Prometheus?
I can't.
A bit?
Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
original Titan, and he's the one
Yeah.
who wears the.
Yeah. I guess
It's a little bit. It's more about.
it's more based on
Oh,
Atlas.
it's more about Atlas. Oh, okay. Right.
It's more based
Right.
on Atlas.
Oh, yeah, they did a lot of that, didn't they?
Yeah.
There's some people who got struck with stuff forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of the first book for me, where it sort of became clear in the series there was gonna be something big at the end. It also is the only book in the series that's made me cry.
So, it's quite good. But yeah, it's really nice. It's really feel good for me. Like, I read all the best bits in it over and over again. So anyway, thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, anybody else? Marianne?
There's a second Percy Jackson.
Oh, yes. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, another fish. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay, guys. I don't know if this really counts, but oh well, I'm counting it.
Well, it does. It's fine.
I would like to talk about my favourite
I've seen what she's got,
show / thing, Bluey.
My serial cousins are obsessed with that.
So am I.
Teddies were that big, and they were literally hugging me, and they were literally crying. They were so happy.
Right.
Okay.
Your guilty pleasure.
This is my guilty pleasure. I know as a 16-year-old I probably shouldn't be watching a show made for 6-year-olds, but oh well. Every time
every text works on different levels.
Yeah, exactly. There are multiple ways you can look at Bluey, and I think I've cried at basically every episode.
It's really educational.
It's very educational, and it's educational
How to
both
be a
in
good family, isn't it?
yeah, both in the sense of how to be a good parent, how to be a good child, how to be a good person, and it's just every episode is just something really either funny or interesting. Have any of you guys watched it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You watched, yeah. Okay.
I've watched all of it.
I've watched.
Aren't dogs
Yeah.
meant to be able to see the colours?
Yeah, it uses a very specific color palette that dogs are able to see because they've got colorblind. They're slightly colorblind.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I've watched every episode at least 3 times, and they're just.
How many episodes are there?
So there's.
Hundreds?
It's going into it's about 150-ish.
Wow.
I don't know, but I've been. One of my parents' friends works for the BBC, and she's in charge of BBC Bluey stuff, and she says they might be doing a film. So, fingers crossed, guys. They did a feature episode that was 28 minutes long though on my birthday, which I'm not saying it's fate, but
Happy birthday, Marianne.
Thank you. Which was really good. It was all about the butterfly effect. I love Bluey so much.
Wow.
The butterfly
That's
effect.
quite
It's
dark.
like delving in
Butterfly effect.
sci-fi here.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like. So
Chaos
it was.
theory.
It's like digestible for children.
Yeah, it was the butterfly effect, but it was like a happy butterfly effect. It wasn't like someone died because someone stepped on a butterfly. It was.
Not like there was a typhoon in Japan and therefore there was a landslide in South America.
No,
Not
it was
that,
like
okay.
So it actually went through multiple episodes of. So if you look back through the episodes, there are signs leading up to this, and it's just.
Oh, well, you see, there we are. There's great storytelling.
God, it's
there.
incredible storytelling. Like, I'm sorry to all the 6-year-olds, but I love this show. But it was a butterfly effect where So there's a character called Rad, who is the dad's brother, and there's a character called Frisky, who is the mum's friend from university or something, or
Right.
they're old friends, and then they meet seasons back, and then they are shown later to be in a relationship, and then this episode covers them getting married. And there's a whole thing, and they go through this whole journey because Frisky gets cold feet, but also kind of not cold feet. And then they go on this whole journey to find her, and it's a butterfly effect throughout the whole thing. And they just miss her a bunch of times, and they finally find her, and it's just really sweet. Anyway, guys, would recommend, go watch Bluey. Every morning I wake up, I go eat breakfast, and I watch an episode of Bluey. Well, not every morning, because sometimes I'm in a bit of a rush. But most mornings.
While you're eating breakfast, I think
Yeah.
you could probably.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, go watch it. It's such a good feel good show. It's the thing getting me through GCSEs. Yeah.
Well, if it's technically not a book.
Hey,
Story.
it has been adapted into novels
It
/
doesn't-
stories. No, not novels, books. Into picture books for children.
Literary. It's literary.
Yes.
It's a story.
So if I take
If you get to bring in Twilight, I get to bring in Bluey. They are just as much of books.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Twilight is much worse.
I mentioned them.
I mentioned how she was wandering around with a cactus.
Sorry.
Actually, it was 2 cactuses, and then one of the cactuses disappeared.
Finishing
So.
it.
Okay, guys, that's my guilty pleasure. Bluey.
Thank you, Marianne.
Okay.
First Jackson.
Jackson
again.
Yeah. You've been carrying around that cake the whole day. Can we just take some time to admire the jellycat cake she bought earlier?
I bought a cake.
Was that from the...
Yeah.
Okay.
I have 32 of them, and I'm slightly maybe my guilty pleasure is buying Jellycats. The ones the frogs, the frog with the headphones. You know, I've got the regular sized the regular one, the one with like the key ring and the bag.
I want the key ring. I want the front.
Oh no, I haven't. Wait, you know the cloud. I've got the cloud bag. And the cloud.
Yeah, stay focused, guys. Stay focused.
Okay.
Well, guilty pleasure.
So.
Never mind the earth. Let's worry about soft toys.
Well, I don't. I think I don't really know, but I always read this whenever
And what is it?
Oh right,
Tell
it's
the folks
Percy
at
Jackson. And I usually. The first one. I usually do read the first one, but sometimes I read like the third. Usually not the second. I kind of like forget about that one, or the last. But yeah, I read it in like it's kind of like a comfort book for me, and I read it because it's quite short. I can finish it quite quickly, and especially as I skip all of the like irrelevant parts. So because I don't need the build up because I've read it so many times that I know like memorize the entire plot. So yeah, and so I can just.
What is it about it? Apart from the fact it's comfort.
Probably just I
Is
don't.
it the story or the writing?
I don't know. I guess I like the characters and yeah, maybe description. I can't remember the last time I read it though, because I've been trying to read new books recently so that I don't read it over and over and over again. But yeah, so I just read it a lot, and then I guess it's because I read it a lot that I read it more, and then I read it more, and then more, and it's like a cycle.
And you feel even more guilty.
Aren't all the books just by your bed? In a massive
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've got 40 books, and they're stacked up against my wall, balancing on a pillow, and they always fall on my head in the night, and so I have to stack up even more so they touch my ceiling because it's really close to the ceiling, my bed, and so they don't fall on my head in the middle of the night and wake me up because it happens several times. But I've got all of the Percy Jackson books and the Heroes of Olympus books, and also the Magnus Chase books on my bed, right by my head.
That's a lot of
My
books.
friends,
I mean,
one of my friends, when we went to New York on the dance and drama trip, we had to go to, what's it called? What's the really big American bookstore? We don't know here. Okay, I can't remember.
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble.
I'll go there when I go to New
She
York.
went to Barnes and Nobles and she spent £50 on Percy Jackson books that she already had, so she could get those editions.
Oh,
And
I
just-
would do
I
that.
just went, what on earth are you doing? £50 is too much.
Then you've got to
money.
carry them back
No.
through.
Yeah, literally. I mean, we were already late as well.
But I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it.
well, some would say.
It is worth it. It is.
Yes.
Okay.
No one trusts you anymore.
Has like a massive thing of Percy Jackson. She's got all the limited editions, and she's got one series which is only like 80 in the world of it. I don't know. Anyway, she's like crazy mad about Percy Jackson. I went to her house on the week, stacked up like all her books on her bookshelf in her room were just Percy Jackson. Like, and she buys all these different limited editions, and then she buys more because then she can get more Percy Jackson books.
Yeah, she's
But
got
they're all the same books.
She's got the Chalice of the Gods one with the like
I know.
rainbows
With
down the
rainbow
side.
down the side.
It's like this weird like hardback version, and it's
Yeah.
really yeah, and it's like like that. It's got shiny parts on the front or something like that.
Yeah,
It's really
it does.
cool.
That's definitely a guilty pleasure.
That's a shrine,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's a shrine.
I don't
to
think
Rick
all
Riordan.
her books are Percy Jackson, but she has a lot of them.
No,
But
they're
yeah.
all Percy Jackson. And then
But
she's
you
got a
won't read
mini
them.
bookcase
You won't
with
you
other books.
you won't read them
No.
because you I think you refuse to because I like them so much, and so
Yeah.
you won't read them.
Yeah.
I think
Why couldn't that
I
have
think we
happened
should
with
try
one?
And
that.
I don't
might-
like reading
that might
all
change.
those.
Challenge for next year.
I
Try
tried
It might change.
I've known her
I
4
think
years.
If you
Uh,
tried the
it might
Percy
change.
Jackson books, you would like read
It
them
could
in
get
college.
I've tried so many other books.
Yeah, but that's not Percy Jackson.
didn't
That's
start
very
with the
different.
We've
one.
had this
Percy
conversation
Jackson's
before as
other-
well.
And I actually
Yeah,
picked
it's
up my
true.
brother's Percy Jackson book. I read the first chapter and it wasn't
The
good.
first chapter is
No, because the first
just
chapter
the first chapter.
it doesn't
It's
have
just-
action.
yeah.
It's the
chapter's
first
not good.
the first chapter's like
Yeah,
the
I'm
pilot
thinking-
episode of a
You
TV
could-
show.
You could say To Kill a Mockingbird takes a long time to get into the actual
Yeah,
plot.
I was
But it's
quite bored
not a
until like
bad book.
halfway.
It's a really good book.
Well,
It's like
I wouldn't say it's a good book. I'd say
you have to.
the last quarter of it was a good book.
No, no.
No, it's
Because it's a very slow burn.
No, but Annabelle, it's not like when you're watching a TV show, you don't stop after the first episode, because the first episode's always bad. Well, not always, but like
Just not as good.
it's just not as good as the
It
other
can
one.
be, yes.
They
have to set things up, don't
Yeah.
because
It's not a lot to say.
and so the second episode, like that's the one. So you have to read until at least like a couple of chapters in to actually know if the book's good or not.
And that's true of any book.
And really, you have to read the first
Yeah.
book
It's
because
very
it's a
rare that
series.
the first chapter can just, be completely brilliant and suck you in.
Otherwise, how do they like set the scene?
Read when they get to Camp Half-Blood for us so we can get her into
Okay, wait. Does anyone know which chapter that is? Hang on, I
It
can.
might be like
There's
Surely Esther does.
I think it's chapter 3
okay.
or chapter 4.
Right, Alyssa.
Wait, it's chapter 5-ish.
Close enough.
You out your miss.
Which-
Chapter 5. I'm not doing 5 chapters.
Okay.
I'll do 4.
We're not-
No,
Don't read the whole chapter, obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
Just read.
Okay.
Like you get
Sally and
Actually, I don't know what are we
It
supposed to be
starts-
reading here? The start of the chapter? Or?
I don't really know because it's kind of like an overlap because there's this whole like fight bit before they get there.
Read just when they get into Camp Half-Blood, the first bit. You know when like Annabelle.
Maybe Esther should just read it.
I'll read it. I'll find the bit that I want.
Because it's that bit. It's that bit where he wakes up and then the later. Hmm? Yeah, but I think that's early. No, that's later.
No, that's later.
Because she's asking him about the deadline thing.
Right,
And then
while
he's like,
this
I
is
have no
finding
idea
out,
what you're
Can
on
you tell
about.
the folks at home what
no,
this is
we
all
should
based on?
Pardon?
What mythology is this all based
Greek.
on?
Oh, Greek. But there are other ones. So Magnus Chase is Norse, and then the King Chronicles are Egyptian, and then Heroes of Olympus. They're kind of like Greek and also Roman. So yeah.
So Percy Jackson is the Titans, is it? Or is it both?
Pardon?
Is Percy Jackson the Titans, or is it both the Titans and the later Olympus?
Scandinavia isn't a country though, it's a group of
Okay.
six.
No, it's like I think it's mostly like all of like the people they're fighting are the Titans, but it's just like it's just the Greeks.
Clash of the Titans.
Wait, which bit?
Okay.
All of it.
Thing.
Start
there,
there,
'cause
then you get the description of
Yes,
the
the
nicest.
cold.
And then
Wait,
when does she
no one
say-
cares about
Esther,
him though.
I
He's
think we
annoying.
If it's going to be like read this
He's
bit, read this
annoying,
bit.
hang on.
I think
Okay.
we much use if you read it.
Yeah, it probably would be
Don't go to
easier.
Norway
When does
in
she
like
say-
the February.
I mean, I just not offended that you're going to read it.
So
My readings
I
out
think
loud is
I'm
not very
going-
good.
I think I'm gonna
Anyway,
read from
It
there.
is.
no, it's really monotone.
Back. That's
Okay.
where I'm gonna end.
Okay,
That's where I'm gonna start.
that's quite okay.
Okay.
I'll just.
Okay.
Come on then.
I'll move on to the camera. You can sit down. and
Okay,
chat.
thank you. We'll sit down. Okay. The man facing me was small but porky. He had a red nose, big watery eyes, and curly hair so black it was almost purple. He looked like those paintings of baby angels. What do you call them? Hubbubs? No, cherubs. That's it. He looked like a cherub who turned middle age in a trailer park. He wore a tiger pattern Hawaiian shirt, and he would have fitted right into one of Gabe's poker parties. Except I got the feeling this guy could have outgambled even my stepfather. That's Mr. D, Grover murmured to me. He's the camp director. Be polite. The girl, that's Annabeth Chase. She's just a camper, but she's been here longer than just about anybody. And you already know Chiron. He pointed at the guy whose back was to me. First, I realised he was sitting in the wheelchair. Then I recognised the tweed jacket, the thinning brown hair, the scraggly beard. "Mr. Brunner!" I cried. The Latin teacher turned and smiled at me. His eyes had that mischievous glint they sometimes got in class when he pulled up a pop quiz and made all the multiple choice answers B. "Ah, good. Percy," he said. "Now we have fourth pinnacle." He offered me a chair to the right of Mr. D, who looked at me with bloodshot eyes and heaved a great sigh. "Oh, I suppose I must say it. Welcome to Camp Half-Blood. There. Now don't expect me to be glad to see you." Thanks. I scooted a little further away from him because if there was one thing I had learned from living with Gabe, it was how to tell when an adult has been hitting the happy juice. If Mr. D was a stranger to alcohol, I was a satyr. "Annabeth," Mr. Brunner called to the blonde girl. She came forward and Mr. Brunner introduced us. "This young lady nursed you back to health, Percy. Annabeth, my dear, why don't you go check on Percy's bunk? We'll be putting him in cabin 11 for now. Annabeth said, Sure, Chiron. She was probably my age, maybe a couple of centimetres taller, and a whole lot more athletic looking. With her deep tan and her curly blonde hair, she was almost exactly what I thought a stereotypical Californian girl would look like. Except her eyes ruined the image. They were a startling grey, like storm clouds. Pretty, but intimidating too, as if she was analysing the best way to take me down and fight. She glanced at the Minotaur horn in my hands, then back at me. I imagined she was going to say, You killed a Minotaur! Or, Wow, you're awesome! Or something like that. Instead, she said, You drool when you sleep.
Now, Annabeth's grey eye, so does that make her Athena?
She's the daughter of Athena.
Oh, okay, right. So, the idea, of course, is that you read those and then you progress to the Odyssey, the Iliad, etc., etc., etc.
Via Natalie Haynes and Jennifer Saints and people like that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, who'd like to go next? Eleanor? No?
Alan's not here.
Alan's not here, sorry.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Anna.
Yeah?
Mr. Humphrey said this doesn't count, but
No, I don't think there's anything to feel guilty about personally, but that's my opinion.
Okay.
I didn't say it doesn't count.
for me,
It's quoting me again.
I just thought I would defend myself first. I've chosen P.G. Wodehouse and Jeeves and Wooster series because for me it's a guilty pleasure because I always read it when I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to be reading
Like when
something
you're
else.
supposed to be revising, you mean, Hannah? Or writing your personal statement?
No.
All right,
document's
let's
not
ease
blank
up on here,
anymore.
shall we, Miss Huntley?
No, because I shared a document with her, but it was just blank.
Oh, whoa, really? Oh, dear.
There's something on it now. Okay.
I'm joking, you know I'm joking.
Does she?
Anyway, so and also because it's like they're just fun little stories. There's no big development. There's no you're not crying by the end of it,
Maybe
except with laughter.
Yeah.
So there's all these short little stories, and it's about I think Bertie Wooster and his valet. Is that how you say it?
Yeah. Or Butler, you can say, Jeeves.
Yeah. Jeeves, and Jeeves is really clever, but Bertie is just hopeless and doesn't know what he's doing, and he always manages to come out of all these crazy events and stories okay because Jeeves is looking out for him, and behind the scenes is plotting to make sure everything's okay. And Bertie's got all these crazy family members, and there's these twins that got kicked out of Oxford, and they they throw this massive party, and it's so, and he gets to all these scrapes, getting engaged to people by mistake and
constantly
falling in
Pretty much
rivers.
at least once a book he's doing that.
Constantly just getting engaged to people.
Yeah, he is.
That's Bertie.
But it happens by mistake.
Bertie would know.
That's so relatable. Like he's getting engaged to people. It's
I
just-
only watched the show or whatever.
There's a show.
Yes.
Yeah,
What?
Didn't you know?
Is there a show?
I don't know what it's on because my
Is
dad
it good?
stated download. Yeah.
Should be
it's
on
Stephen
BritBox.
Fry and Hugh Laurie.
Oh, I love Stephen.
But
Stephen Fry's Jeeves and Hugh Laurie's Wooster.
Wait, Stephen Fry's.
but I only watched the show, but he gets engaged several times, and every time Jeeves hates the person that he gets engaged.
It's
Yeah.
giving seven.
And then he also plays instruments, which also Jeeves really hates.
Really? I don't remember that.
Piano in particular, just like Hugh Laurie does.
And
Hugh Laurie's
also
known for playing
violin.
piano.
And the trumpet, I think.
It's a great
Zoe
series.
plays
It's
violin.
definitely worth watching.
Yeah, it's
But
really
I don't
good.
think you can.
Yeah,
How
it
old
was
is
in the
that?
90s,
Oh, that's
early
good.
90s, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
They should do a remake.
before both of them went on to become, the icons they are now.
Really? Before? Wow, that's.
Yeah,
so
they were famous, but now,
They were
both,
famous,
they're
but,
both global icons
yeah.
now, aren't they?
Yeah,
Everyone knows
that's
who they are
true.
now. So
Yeah, and also it's really funny how Jeeves hates all the clothes that Bertie buys. And he,
He's
has
got
to,
no taste whatsoever.
he always sends them back and reorders them, and they're always much better. So I really recommend this if you're looking for something that's going to make you laugh and take you out of the world.
What's it called again?
Jeeves and Wooster, any of them, to be honest, they're so funny. And also the audiobooks. It's great to have someone tell you a story.
that's a good one
You don't?
to be read to.
Why not?
Have read to you,
I don't
rather.
know the person's voice.
You have to find the right one.
No, they always speak too slow or too fast, and I have to
change
see
the
the words
speed.
because I visualize the word in my head,
Oh.
and it
because when I read it on a page, I can visualize it in my head, and I can go back and I can read it again if it's really nice, and I can like highlight it if I really like it, like physically. But you can't do that with an audiobook because it's just it's like being in conversation with someone, but you're not speaking back. It's like being screamed at by someone, but not being screamed at. It's
a bit harsh.
Someone talking to you, but about something, but you're not responding. So it seems like
so there's no interaction.
So it makes it quite boring if you say it, like. But when you're actually reading the book, you can like visualize it and you can like get immersed because you know it's fictional and you can imagine what they sound like, the people, and because it's coming from you and it's not coming from someone else, so it's not like someone else is telling you the story, it's like you're the person and you're telling the story.
But the thing is, like, I love walking, but when I read while I'm walking, I always crash into people because they don't never move out the way, and like
God.
And like I'm reading my book, so I have to do audiobooks. Yeah.
It hasn't happened 7 times. It definitely hasn't happened
7 times. Oh my god! I got so upset this morning because my audiobook lost its place, and and you don't want to spoil it, but you're like, I've read this, and then you go too far, and it's the worst.
You can do it on a Kindle though, because it's easy. Because I always, I don't know why, I just memorise what lock I'm on. What lock? Because there's like a lock.
Location.
I don't know. I don't
location.
Oh, is that what it stands for? I just thought it was lock. I thought it was like you could lock the text.
The dinosaur
here.
knows, but
Yeah, the dinosaur.
text genius doesn't. Oh well, there we go. So this, it's well worth seeking out. It might even be available on YouTube, possibly.
Yeah,
even.
good chance
I
it
know
is.
it was on BritBox for a while, and it's interesting because Hugh Laurie plays in Blackadder. He usually plays the very idiotic person. So it's and Blackadder came a bit later. So.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That was his thing. The upper class twit was his before he went on to do what he's more
sure
famous for now.
I'm pretty sure most of the stories in the TV shows are like the same. I don't really know. Is there one in the books where he like sets fire to a house or something?
It's entirely possible.
Yeah,
probably. The scrapes that he gets in.
How does he do it? It's impressive.
They are a bit farcical, obviously.
Yeah, they are farcical. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. I think Nuala's Nuala.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. My book.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
It's not really a guilty pleasure in the sense that I have to move on from it. It's just I told my mother I hated French history.
That was a challenge.
Yeah. Well, she did it at university, and it's all she talks about.
Okay.
And I don't want to hear about it at all times. So I'm just like, I don't want to hear about it. I don't like it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know about it that much. But the book is The Burning Chambers by Kate Moss. And so it's set in Carcassonne in 1562. And it's about basically the divide between Catholics and Protestants or Huguenots in the city, or in France in general, the series. And it's basically the two main characters are from each religion. And it's about how their relationship develops and how it's affected by the political stance in France at the time and in the surrounding countries like Britain and in the Netherlands and in Germany and in Spain. So that's basically a summary. And for book lovers, to convince you to read it at some point, it comes with a little explanation on the history, so you're not completely lost. There's a map, if that helps. Yeah, I can see Josie nodding.
Always a good
Always a good.
For those of you like me who are not great with names, there's a character list.
Good.
Good.
Especially if
Oh, yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah. Very helpful when they're all French and they all have very French similar names. And you're like,
And you
I don't know who
don't
you
have
are.
to have read her earlier text, do you? Cause
Oh, no,
a
this
lot
is-
of her
you
books
can-
are set around.
Yeah. Well, this is like the first one in the series. So.
Give examples of similar names in there.
Okay. I've got to find the character list first. Okay, you have Minot and Marie. You have Aymeric and Alice. Bernard and Berenger.
You're saying this really Frenchly.
Am I?
Getting confused between the two.
I'm very bad at names. Do you know that?
Names are hard.
They are.
Yeah, especially if they're like
Who's it very
pronounced
much
in
just
a
as you're getting
different
into
way.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of
Get someone is
and there's a
that.
bunch of related English Protestants, and they're all
Yeah.
and they're like barely referenced.
and they're like referenced by the cousins, and then they'll say their names, and I'm like, which one is this?
In Twilight, I thought I thought Carlisle was Carcel.
Okay, I don't know who either of those people are.
Okay.
But it moves around like Toulouse and Carcassonne and Puivet, and it's
Annabelle, listen.
But it moves around Toulouse, Carcassonne, and Puivet, and it goes all around Paris as well, and it's great. And it goes into like the history of Catholicism as well, which is great for Catholics. And yeah, I really like it, and yeah. And it's really interesting, especially if you do like history GCSE, because you do a lot on the relationships on Catholic and Protestants in England, but you don't do it so much in other countries. Maybe a little bit in the Netherlands, Anglo-Dutch Wars. Anyone else do history?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I got 2 people. Yay. Okay.
It's worth it, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah, history's fun for anyone considering doing it.
The massacre of St. Bartholomew.
It's really.
I've seen my friends suffering.
Yeah, my sister's suffering.
Miss Anna's question.
Does it go as far as the massacre of St. Bartholomew?
I think it does. Yeah, it does. Like, there's a lot of different massacres. There's a lot going on. So, yeah.
That's the most notorious one, though.
Yeah.
St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre.
Yeah, I think it does have it. It mentions it like in the beginning of it. So on the history rundown. So, kind of includes a lot of.
No,
it was on St. Bartholomew.
No.
It was on the day.
On that particular day, the king maybe ordered that Protestants would be put to the sword.
Which is not wonderful.
So then how did that relate to
That's how a lot of Protestants came from France to live in London, and we have
and there were the Huguenots coming over.
Lace trade, Spitalfields, weaving.
Yeah.
So they would.
Wait, hang on. How did that relate to St. Bartholomew?
It's on
it was
the day.
on his feast day.
It's on his day.
Yeah,
that's the only.
You get it.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't actually a saint who was massacred there.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
you got that.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah. So I'd say read it. It's great.
Thank you, Neela.
Thank you, Neela. Anyone else? No. Okay, right. So a few of you spotted my one. Who's read Asterix? What do we like about Asterix then?
Brilliant.
Celts.
Yeah.
Have you watched the films?
It is. It's hilarious.
Have you watched the old films?
I've watched some. Yeah, I've watched some films. The ones that they made back in sort of the 60s and 70s. Yeah, I watched Asterix in Britain.
Last summer I went to Catalonia in Spain, and I went to a really small village that was next to another slightly larger town, which was in the middle of its festivals. And there was one massive parade where they had these massive puppets, and the people in the puppets were massive, and they were parading around these massive puppets.
Yeah.
And there were a group of about 7, maybe like 8 people, all dressed as Asterix characters. And it was these massive, like really traditional puppets, and it was just a bunch of
Asterix parade.
How big were the puppets?
Huh?
Was it huge people and huge puppets?
Like massive puppets. And then they had little ones that the kids were like practicing to go in the big ones. It was really cute. It was like
okay.
2-3 feet. 2
Yeah, I've been to it. When I was a kid, my parents took me to Park Asterix in Paris, and that is so much fun. It's Disneyland, but Asterix.
It's supposed to be better than Disneyland.
I would say it is, as a big Asterix fan. It's a lot of fun, and they have like all the things you get in Disneyland. Well, maybe not all the things, but it's Asterix is a national icon. They love it there. It is an international icon. It's been translated into so many languages, including English. But in its original homeland, how many have been written? Just for a start, there's about 40 something have been written. And right, so those of you who don't know, the premise is the year is 50 BC. I think it's 50 BC, and Roman Empire has conquered Gaul. All of Gaul. All? No, not quite. One little village on Amorica is still holding out against the invaders. And the reason they can hold out against the invaders is that the venerable druid Getafix, and the names are brilliant. I'll talk about all the wonderful puns. The venerable druid Getafix has brewed a magic potion that imbues those who consume it with superhuman strength. And so this little tiny village of, 100-odd Gauls is holding out against the might of the Roman Empire, embarrassing Julius Caesar time and again. And so that's the premise. And the stories are, so Asterix is the main character. There he is. His best friend Obelix, he fell into the magic potion when he was a baby, which gave him superhuman strength. And they were always accompanied, is he on the cover? Oh no, why isn't he on the cover? By Obelix's little dog, Dogmatix. Oh, there he is, Dogmatix. And they tend to split the stories. Some of them are in the Gaulish village. I can't remember what the village is called, if it indeed has a name. The little village that we know so well. They all live... hello, Mr. Tell. So half of the series, they just is set around the village, and of course you meet all the other Gauls. I mentioned Getafix. You got Cacophonix, who's the bard, who's terrible, makes a racket every time he plays. Vital Statistics. You can see why the names are so brilliant. He's the chief of the village. Then you got Fully Automatics, the blacksmith. Unhygienics, the fishmonger. Geriatrics, who's like even older and more senile than Getafix. And then the other ones, they tend to go on an adventure overseas somewhere. So they might go to Spain, they might go to America, but normally other places in Europe. And this one, they go to Scotland. And this is this is the first in the new. So it was created by Goscinny and Uderzo. Yeah. And this is they both have sadly passed away. No, I think they're related. They're just the two guys who picked it up. So it's Jean-Yves Ferry and Didier Conrad. They're the ones who picked it up. So this is, and they go to the Picts. Yeah, Loch Ness Monster does feature in this. Yes, okay. And we've got some good names in here. So the Romans tend to have good names as well. Like in the very first volume, the name of the centurion was Christmas Bonus. And then there's Tortuous Convulsus is another one. What else have we got here? So here we go. So they go into Britain. Now, Asterix in Britain, the old film, they're all talking like, oh, hello, like they sort of Worcester. Oh, hello, old boy. What's tally-ho, what? And this is like ancient Britons talking like that. And the main British character now is called Anticlimax. And the chief on the village is called My Kingdom for a Horse. Nice Shakespeare. So they're very clever. And yeah, it's just like great supporting cast of characters. And in this one, we've got, you go. So yeah, in Scotland. And the Romans are here, fancy a cup of. So, the British stereotype for tea, because we all like our tea. And then we've got Kalashnikova is another one named here. I'm guessing because there's some sort of Norse/Russian. I don't know. I can't remember. I haven't actually read this one for a while. But yeah, so it's just a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, I think I've said everything I want to say about it. If I haven't convinced you by given all the names alone. One thing I will say, it does sort of trade on stereotypes a little unhealthily. I just mentioned about the tally-ho bit, but the other nationalities, they sort of come out of it. To be fair, the French as well are sort of mocked. Everyone is sent up, and it's not particularly politically correct. I'm not sure we'll get written today because it does get a bit close to the bone. So should add that.
Yeah, it started a long time ago.
It did, yeah. It was very, very, very much a product of its time. So there were some problems in how certain people, certain races in particular, are depicted. But nonetheless, it is wonderful. So so like I said, if I haven't convinced you on the basis of the premise and then the silly names and everything. So yeah, anyone else want to say anything about it? About what they? Anyone got a particular favourite story that they? Because I've read all of them religiously. So I know them very well.
What's the name of the first one and what's the name? That's obviously quite a late one.
Yeah, the first one I think it's just called Asterix the Gaul. Yeah, Asterix the Gaul. Yeah, you got Asterix the Gladiator. Asterix. He does go to Rome multiple times. He goes to Rome in that one to fight in the Colosseum. Asterix in Britain I already mentioned. Asterix the Legionary, who becomes a legionary. Asterix the Olympic Games.
Does he go to the Olympic Games?
Yes. The Mansions of the Gods. Oh, the Mansions of the Gods is a good one. That's one where Caesar tries to build. Yeah.
I watched one of the movies in my French class last year in French.
Yeah,
okay.
I've watched them in
I don't know what was going on. I think they were trying to trick some princess into coming back.
Yeah, that sounds like a possibility.
But it was. I don't understand. I didn't understand any of it.
Okay.
I wasn't very good at French.
Okay. Well, I mean. if you saw the English language version, you might. And yeah, the Mansion of the Gods. That's when Caesar has this plan. Okay, you know, we haven't been able to take over my brute force, so instead we'll just surround them with loads of, like, you know, these villas and mansions, and they'll have to adapt to our ways. And the reason I've mentioned that is because I remember the main architect who's allocated to that project. His name is Square in the Hypotenuse. So yeah, I mean, just the names alone are hilarious. But, you know, it's just the fact you drink this magic potion, you get superhuman strength. The cartoon violence is hilarious. You got Obelix there, who's just making a big racket and everything else.
When they collect helmets.
And yes, that's right. Whenever he beats up the legionaries, he collects the helmets. So he's running to all those he's beating up. Dogmatics, his method of fighting is to bite the Romans on the rear end. That's what he always does, and you always see him proudly with a bit of, you know, fabric in his mouth. So yeah, just great. So yes, I do still feel a bit guilty that I'm still enjoying these books that I really enjoyed from my childhood, but I make no apology for it because they're brilliant. So there we go. So that's mine. Thank you very much, everyone.
I'll finish off then. Okay, so my guilty pleasure is reading or watching a good detective story, and because I went to see Reverend Richard Coles quite recently, talking about his latest Canon Clement mystery, I'm going to talk about this. This is his first novel. If you don't know Richard Coles, he's a broadcaster. He was a priest, vicar until he retired a couple of years ago in Northamptonshire, which is north of here, in case you didn't know. And a lot of what he experienced as a vicar is in this book, and the others as well. And also starring are these dogs.
Were people frequently murdered at his church?
No, but the controversies. So, for example, I'll read you a little bit. There's a lovely map. Parish of Champton.
Book with maps are always good.
Yeah. And people that he knows, for example, Richard Coles's parish is quite not that far from Althorpe, which is the home of the Spencers, which is the brother at the moment. The current Duke was the brother of Princess Diana, and they're very good friends. And so, although Champton House isn't Althorpe, but I can recognise sort of bits that, you know, when he talks about the gentry, sort of in Northamptonshire. Northamptonshire is not a very well-known county. It doesn't. If you think about places to go and visit in Britain, like a Lake District or Cornwall or Devon or Norfolk, nobody ever says, "Oh, I'm going to Northamptonshire." However, it used to be, and his father was involved in it, the home of the British shoe trade. All British shoes used to be made there, apart from Clark's, which were made in Somerset. People mended shoes there. It was extraordinary. And also, one of Jane Austen's most famous novels is set there in Mansfield Park. But it's a county that I quite often, frequently drive through on my way north. But he grew up there, and although he's not living there now, he's clearly very fond of it. So it's quite a rural county, although Northampton is quite a big town, so he's invented this parish, and the controversy starts with a sermon that Canon Clement is going to preach, and because it's a detective novel, Canon Clement mystery, somebody, in fact probably more than one, I can't remember in this one, gets killed, because that's the tradition in British murders. You have one and then there's another one. Diana, did you want to say something?
I was just about, so did people go to New Hampshire instead of like Cornwall and Devon? Was it like a big place to go?
Northamptonshire?
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. It isn't. If you think about places to visit, you might think about the Lake District or Norfolk or Devon or Cornwall, because they've got their various attractions. Yeah. But Northamptonshire is not somewhere that's got a lot of
Oh, I thought you were saying people wanted to visit it.
No.
So
No,
that's
no,
really-
no. The
No, that's the
opposite.
point. It's overlooked.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh,
point.
would you
It's
go
quite
somewhere for the
overlooked.
shoes?
It's got a number of really
I've never
big
been.
stately homes in it, but it's not a famous landscape.
I'd go to
Like-
a shoe shop to get shoes.
But yeah, but you wouldn't go somewhere just. I mean,
Okay, let's not digress.
Okay.
Back to this. Back to this.
So this is how it starts. Canon Daniel Clement, AKC, rector of Champton St Mary, stood in his pulpit looking down on his parishioners. His text was taken from the book of Numbers, the story of the Israelites turning against Moses for leading them not into the promised land, but into a wilderness. A resonant story not only for him, but he felt sure for all 58, that's not many, of his predecessors. Fared lot flocks, then and now were apt to turn. Moses averts mutiny by striking a rock, and a cataract of water miraculously pours forth, so his thirsty and restive people may drink, a resourceful tactic that suited Daniel's purposes too. Like Moses and the footsore of Israel, remember that the Israelites have been wandering, having left Egypt and got across the Red Sea. They've been wandering in the wilderness trying to find Canaan for almost 40 years, so they're very fed up. We too must learn to live in hope, to look to the future and to find in our present circumstances the resources to meet its challenge. As Moses struck the rock of Meribah and lo, a crystal stream poured forth, we too must allow new waters to flow, or rather to flush. My dear people, we need to install a lavatory. A frisson went through the congregation, mirroring the reverberation of that last loaded word. It was as if someone had actually flushed something unmentionable in their midst. And so this controversy goes on because they're going to have to get rid of pews. If anybody's ever been to a Church of England church that's not been modernised, pews, which are benches that are very unmodernised and quite frankly very uncomfortable, getting rid of any number of these can be a major thing. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but because church buildings are listed, most church buildings in Britain are listed. In other words, they've got, you can't change anything in them. Even if you want to, say for example, you want to stop using the pulpit and use just a stand, you have to apply for planning permission. And if you want to get rid of the pews, you have to do the same thing. So, for example, at Westminster Abbey, they now have chairs to sit on. And it's the same in Canterbury. Canterbury's never had pews, but Westminster definitely had, and so I can imagine the fuss that was made when those had to get got rid of. So, and eventually it leads to murder before evensong. Evensong is in the Church of England, the last service of the day, usually between 3:30 and 5:30, and then you have evening prayers, compline later on, and quite often. It's sung by a choir. Might be quite often now it's a mixed choir, or boys and girls and women and men. But traditionally, it would have been sung by boys their voices haven't broken yet, and older gentlemen whose voices have broken. And it's one of the glories of Britain that we have this tradition across Britain, not only in our cathedrals but also in our country churches. And because Richard Coles was actually a pop star before he became a vicar, he's very into music. So hence the evensong.
Oh, he has.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's had an amazing life, and he's very, very funny, very fabulous with words. When I went to see him. The first half was him chatting about his books, and then he opened up questions to the audience, and that was off the cuff, even though I'd seen them before, and he was just fabulous. He used to be on Radio 4 on a Saturday morning, fronting a programme called Saturday Live, which had been started by another DJ years before, and that's about the idiosyncrasies and eccentricities of Britain. And then they moved it to Cardiff, and he decided that he could no longer make that journey. So,
what's wrong with Cardiff?
So I do recommend it. I mean, a good detective novel is a great guilty pleasure. Whether it's Agatha Christie, Dorothy L. Sayers is my other go-to read whenever I need a good comfort read.
Is this a little bit inspired by Father Brown mysteries?
No, it hasn't got
No?
quite
Okay.
that sort of odd. Father Brown, I always, not the series, but the books, has always got a slightly odd, almost mystical element.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Not quite the same.
Okay.
No, but
right.
he really
Just
does know his
wondering.
Church of England.
Oh yeah. Yeah, of course.
So.
And yeah, for all that, he starts with lavatory breaking down,
Yes.
which is just
well,
typical-
no. In fact, they have no lavatory.
Oh, they have no
And of
lavatory,
course,
sorry, my
these
mistake.
days, churches do have them.
Yeah.
They
You're behind
have
the
to.
times.
Yeah.
And it just seems like, of course he would. Rich girls, he would start with the lavatory.
Of course, the other thing to understand about the Church of England is that no parishes, whatever income they get in, a third of their income has to go to the diocese, and so most of them are very poor, or not relatively speaking, and therefore the facilities are not of the greatest. And they don't get. It's a bit like the Tower of London and Hampton Court Palace. They don't get any subsidy from the government, despite the fact that our churches are one of the glories of our nation, because they're so old. Because we've been a Christian nation since before the Norman Conquest, so sort of 8th century, 9th century. But like the royal palaces, not the. I don't mean Buckingham Palace. I mean Hampton Court and Tower of London. No subsidy from either the Crown or the government, so they have to look after themselves. But it's really worth reading, because the dogs he's always had dachshunds since he was growing up. He loves them. They're great characters, and as it says, as the police move in and the bodies start piling up, Daniel is the only one who can try and keep his fractured community together and catch a killer. Annabelle.
Do you say it like Dachshund?
I say dachshund, yes.
It's Dachshund.
I say that.
Is it? No.
I mean, I feel like we're just going to get into another.
Yeah, I think we'll.
It depends on I think what your family say.
Has a jumper like that, and it's really cute.
It's cute, isn't it?
She's got like 3 of them.
All right, well, thank you, Miss Huntley. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.
So there we are. Well done, everybody. Thank you very much for your contributions. And
we are here
we'll
next week.
see you next week.
All right.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.